Welcome, everybody. Blessed are those that visit this channel and enjoy the content here.
Right, this is going to be another episode of Strat Book. Me and LEGIJA are back again in 2021, and this time we have got Zeus joining us, who is the head coach of Evil Geniuses, and obviously before that he was the coach of many other teams. He was the coach of Team Liquid. In between that, he was with the boys back in MIBR, and obviously way back in the day, he was their coach when they won. I think was it only the second major where you were officially the coach, or were you the coach for both the majors?
Both majors.
Yes.
LG and SK.
Right. Yes.
SK only had one match.
You came over with FNX and Taco, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Merger of Games Academy with LG, yeah.
Yes. Now, I will say, obviously people know on this show, like, we can go anywhere in the person's career, 'cause it's just about, like, what ideas are interesting and how it relates to CS. But I will say, anyone who's watched this series knows that, like, one of our go-to references, if we're talking about styles of Counter-Strike, is that Luminosity SK from 2016, because I think a lot of people actually, I know it's even pros think that team somewhat like revolutionized how Counter-Strike was played, because before that, like, in my opinion, here's the very quick version. Obviously, whenever we reference that team, one of the things I think when I look at it is like one of the most balanced teams ever. Like, it's not like every player's like, it's not like FaZe Clan. Every player isn't supposed to have some super aimers, but at the same time, it's got like the right skill in the right positions, like the right players, like the right level of experience, and then newer players, like something. That was like a magical lineup in some ways, right, Zeus?
I agree, man. I have so many fond memories of that, and I hope it's not reaching, but I think so as well. I think we kind of revolutionized how the game was played with bringing little different approaches and how we wanted to do it. We made roles work. Taco, I think you said this, Duncan. It was a Taco one that he made every team in the world need a Taco, and kind of that. They didn't have that fixed entry fragger role, someone who even joked as the human shield for Cold, doing all of the pitch roles, but he brought that into existence, or at least into a higher level of existence, right, where it was more on the spotlight.
Because obviously, like, the classic style we always described from that team was like it was the team where the reason I say I also think it revolutionized Counter-Strike was that at the time you actually still had a lot of people who did old school Counter-Strike, like you run a tactic from spawn, or you just do like a very simple mid round, and then at the end, back then, it's like if you ever talk to some of the top players now who are very skilled, they all think that, like, right, almost like, don't coach me, like, listen, I know what to do when I get in the bomb site, like, you know, I know what to do in this scenario. But one thing I think that was misunderstood was that team is probably the most famous ever for when it gets to a late round, 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3, 2 versus 3, 3 versus 2, that might be the best team ever to play CSGO in that regard. Like, I mean, listen, Fnatic was right up there, Astralis is obviously very good, but this team, this was a team famous for this. And in my opinion, that's why this team was beating teams like the Kirby, Astralis, and the FaZe Clans, like teams that, you know, Europeans would tell you, this team should be the champion, these should be number one, because if you can control all the late game scenarios, as in both players understand, like, what the other one's going to do, what are we trying to accomplish, how do we stop a team like this? That's where a player who individually, he might know what to do in that scenario. If you're on the same page with your teammate, it takes it to another level. Give us some thoughts on this. Like, was it intentional? Because famously, everyone remembers the story of, like, you were doing all this theory crafting before the major and stuff. So was this something like you and Fallen were actually trying to, like, instill in the guys how to play?
It was, because even before that team, if you remember, like the earlier variation of LG with Bowls, with Steel, they already had that super late style. We were like, Fallen always tried to master that super late round, because in our theory, in our discussions, it was always in the late rounds, people are prone to make more mistakes. One, you need to exhaust the resources from the map. You're going to need to get out of the choke points, and you need sometimes to exec a strat. 3 to 4 rounds, you try to condition them into getting used to doing something like that. So we had to bring a very defaulty style gameplay for most rounds and play different situations out of the same round. So most of them did go into late round, and it was a really good communication from players amongst themselves. And it was so small details. Sometimes it was something like, guys, this round we started a little bit faster. We're going to disappear from the map from 30 seconds and hit the right area. Sometimes people would just peek into us. FNX was actually a master of this. We get an advantage, you just say freeze and guns out. Let them make the next step now. Let them make a mistake. People weren't as used to having that kind of a thing, so you always saw many events unfold. Like, after the first kill, you knew that the guy could come out halls on Mirage or something like that, and that we knew our timings before everyone knew those. So everything was very well theorized and set for us. I think it was really cool, because that first major, what you referenced, is true. We were doing like 2 to 3 hours of theory a day, and we'd watch the demos and we'd discuss the situation and our thought process and why that was the correct timing, or it wasn't the correct timing, where we should have done it differently. Or when someone made a play, like they saw a window, sometimes we just communicate. I'm going for something. Hold on, guys, because we understood that he had already conditioned the person. So we were very much in sync on that team and how we wanted to approach the game. We always had one big idea that we followed, and many situations would come from those, but all of them were being done mid-round in the communications. And back then, I think even I could communicate. It was before the Valve rule, so
yes.
I was able to help and say, if I saw someone was doing something, I was able to help and say, freeze this area of the map, let the other area work, something like that. It was pretty cool. We had a really good sync. I mean, we weren't that team out of nowhere, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way, I would even say, like, if people weren't around back then and so they haven't watched those games, like now obviously it's like 5 years ago. Listen, you see it now when you watch Astralis play. Like, think about when Astralis is at their best. Again, late round scenario, they don't just all hit the bomb site instantly. If they have a numbers advantage, they use that against you. Like as you say here, they'll just like stay in what they'll. My joke is like Astralis just turn into like 3 lurkers if they're left on the map, you know. And what they're waiting for is what you described. Let the other guy make a mistake. Let him just go into an area and not check a corner. And then all of a sudden we're 3 versus 1. Now the round's over. You know, if we all run a site, maybe they get lucky, stack it. There's a million things can happen. So it all seems simple to talk about, but it's hard to implement for sure. There's not many teams I think have done it successfully.
And I think, I don't know how well, because I wasn't part of the other teams, and this was kind of our start into the pro scene, but I think one of the, at least areas we're able to identify is we always knew where the lurker was. In our pre-games, we identified someone that we wanted to abuse that map. So normally it was that lurker, because the lurker will have a more set routine, so we knew what positions he'd like to come from, what timings he was there. Every time we're doing a retake, we know if the lurker is alive or not, and we'd search for first the lurker so that we can all start attacking everywhere where we're not getting shot from every side. So that was pretty cool. I see nowadays everyone's looking for the lurker. Everyone's aware of the lurker.
Sure.
The lurker. But back then, at least from memory, if it isn't failing me, it wasn't as much. You had the happy, the get rights who were known for their lurkers and were very effective at it, and people still couldn't shut them down. So we kind of started shutting down these lurker roles. It was pretty cool.
What do you think, LEGIJA? Obviously, you've referenced this team on many of the other shows. Like, they were kind of a game changer, right?
100%, and that's a team also that I think we try to copy the most from, especially like the team play wise. And I also think that with you guys, I personally have the feeling when you were also, I think, one of the first teams who actually moved and lived together in a place.
Yes.
Out of all the teams. And I think because I lived it myself with Big when we moved together to Germany, it's a completely different thing. You don't practice only Counter-Strike in your working time, basically. You talk before the practice already with your teammates about CS, and you talk after practice with your teammates about CS. And I also think that kind of, I believe, or I'm assuming, helped you guys also to improve so much and build like, you guys had fucking incredible harmony together. And you could actually see it in-game. With many teams, you cannot see it in-game, but you guys, you could see it.
Thank you. You're 100% right, because we did live together. For us, it was a necessity. So back in that day, we actually lived basically 2 teams together, because Games Academy lived in the house in front of us. So we talk Counter-Strike 24/7. At dinner, on the table, we're talking Counter-Strike about remembering a round or commenting a situation. The map is over. We have that 5-minute break to get a water. People who smoke go smoke, and we're discussing the situations and always trying to improve. And it's the little details, and it isn't a set like this. Goes away from the theory time. This isn't a big theoretical concept. You're just fine tweaking little mistakes, and I think talk is the number one thing, right? If you know how to talk to your teammates, you're going to be able to explain your ideas at least best. Because sometimes I don't know how to explain. Sometimes you don't know how to listen. So the truth is going to be somewhere in between. And if you're able to understand what I'm thinking or what I was trying to do, you can plug and play a little bit better and fit that situation for ours. So that's kind of it. Like, we had coldzera, who we set him up to do those things, but we know how he wanted to play. We know how he liked to get set up, and we try to sometimes even subconsciously, just from repetition, from talking, we knew that if he got the spawn, he wanted to jump. We were supposed to make one stepping sound so that the guy thinks it's a normal default or something like that. And then he was going to get that first kill. And then we were able to follow up on top of that. Since we're able to replicate that situation, we already saw, oh, last time we got this kill on B train on the upper guy because I know he likes to peek here. The rotator came instantly. So now we can have 2 options. Now we can fake and go to the other area outside, or we can actually full exec and use our utility advantage to actually just brute force our way into a site. Or no, we know that we like to play slow, so this team was going to use all their utility. So we're just going to save everything and full exec onto them. We had this strat on Inferno, which was I think Astralis even did this quite a bit after, which is the famous full Molotov onto B, where you molly emo, play the triple, and on top of both sides, and you smoke everything off. If you do that in a late round scenario where nowadays teams are smarter, they'll have a defensive smoke to either put themselves off or try to stop the choke point or something like that. Back then, if they were just using all their utilities and we knew that they didn't have something always saved, we could beat any team just getting into B late round. I don't care who it was. They can put 3-4 players there. We know where everything's going to be flashed, where it's going to be smoked, and all the main positions where we're going to have Molotov. So being on the same page is really important, and having these talks, like I said, let us always be on the same page.
It's also interesting.
Keep going.
It's interesting also what you say that, like you had, what we always said, we were a team, like we always, like when we, before practice, we always like structured kind of our practice, and we spoke like about like different teams. You had like Fnatic, the aggressive team, also trying to play a lot X on X. Then you had other teams who try to like play a lot of team play, always together, very structured. Other teams play very loose, and we had like teams play by, we called them like different styles. We called like a team Fnatic style, or a team who is playing like Vega Squadron, for example, Vega style, because they were fucking loose, going absolutely half. Yeah. And what does this mean? Guys, everybody stay on each position, double up if necessary, and just hold and let them run into your crosshair. And it's good that, because we learned so much from you guys, because we felt that you guys had the answer for every single scenario. So we looked, when you played against Vega Squadron, I'm just saying, how does SK play against them? Okay, they play passive, fallen, just holding angles. He's not playing aggressive. But then again, other team that plays quite passive and saving equipment, bam, Fallen realizes they save equipment. Okay, let's fucking go. I'm getting an opener. So we kind of always try to copy the styles that you play against each teams and your reactions. Bro,
I think
we would be stupid if we wouldn't do it, because it was showing that you guys were, at this point, like the Astralis today, you guys were the best playing team, I would say.
Yeah. Until the time that goes so much into the theory work where we're doing, because we had like you're saying, we had keywords for the styles of play. So like what you call Vega Squadron, we'd call they're just a full. They have a stretch coming from spawn and they're gonna run at us. So we're gonna use the utilities to stop them. If it's a Fnatic team where we said they like to play gaps, right? They're gonna try to walk A halls and out A ramp at the same time. And like if it's on train, they're gonna walk out one upper, one out lower, and they're gonna try to just timing you and overdo. So we knew. From those theories, I remember we'd sit, like me, Fallen, we would round up everybody, sit them at the PCs, and we're like, look at this round, how it unfolded. So against this style, what options do we have? And we'd write on a notepad, okay, double op is an option. We can have someone there just always getting supported against something like that. So we had many options. So anytime that, all right, we're playing this happens, it kind of instantly we set a keyword, and it would not be a style, but we'd have many alterations. So I don't know if you probably remember this. We're playing a team, and all of a sudden you could see coldzera up, you could see Taco up, yes. You could see we're picking up op because we're like against this style. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to only be Fallen on the op. An op shuts down this kind of aggressive style. And there's other styles where we're like, Fallen, this run, you're probably not even going to op as much. Or if you're going to op, you're going to shotgun op, like we called it. We put them into positions to literally try to drop the first two down while they're doing their execute, or get a timing on them. We always, like, because we'd said, there are teams that execute. We'd say this team likes to exec around the 40-second, this one like around the 35. We were the exec at 20 seconds, so we had even the key timings that we believe that now it's time to push for additional information. And if we're lucky, we're going to get a timing on them with smokes and Molotovs setting up the execute, or we're actually going to get the full information that are there and they are able to rotate out. So everything was very much studied out for us in that sense, especially in regards to how to react to the other team.
Yeah, if people don't know as well, again, because we're obviously talking about 2016 now. Back then, I can tell people, like, I know the top teams was like Fnatic, like they'll even tell you themselves. Like, remember, this was the Fnatic without Pronax. That was the team where Flusher was the IGL and all they did is just play defaults. Like, what they thought was we have the best players in the world, so we don't need to do anything else. We just play, and then the idea is it's almost like an FPL game. It's like, we know what we're doing, right? You know, Olaf goes here, Crims goes there, Jdubs does his bullshit, you know. But the problem with that style is, listen, as you saw by how successful there was plenty of tournaments where that could win them the tournament. But I always felt like maybe some of the European teams had an arrogance in that sense, because if you think you're the better team, in a way, it can make sense to play your style. But actually, LEGIJA's example is a great one, because obviously, if we're comparing teams, Vega Squadron was way below all the teams we're talking about. But the reason they could upset teams is, if you didn't properly prepare for them and you just thought it was a normal game, you're going to have a big surprise when you play against that team. You know, like, their point is, your team was in the demos as a team. It wasn't just you, because I know in some of the other teams, you know, the coach watched all the demos, but then he came and kind of gave like a short version to the team, and then some of them probably didn't even listen. So the idea your team was like studying this, no wonder you were able to adapt, and that's the secret, right? You got to play different styles against different teams.
The teams that I can watch 20 hours of demos and try to explain it, but unless you see it with your eyes and you're discussing and you're thinking the step by step, not me just feeding you information, you're not going to understand why the person was doing something or the entire idea behind it. And I agree very much with what you say in different styles, because that's something that we talked so much. We didn't want to have one style. We wanted to have every style, because our main rival in the very beginning when we were starting was Na'Vi, and Na'Vi were super structured to set up Guardian at the time, and they would set like Dust 2, they'd flash off every single angle so that he can lead with the op and get him into position, and he starts opening the pack. And once we were able to figure out how to beat that style, we're like, this is an amazing team, but we can beat them every time now because they don't adapt, they don't change their style, they're only playing this. And we didn't want to fall into the position where, we are the team that's super slow execute. So if someone understands that all they need to do is save one molly when we're trying to execute and stop us the extra 6 seconds, we lose due to time, or we're going to have to run through fire because we're already using everything to execute. So then we started trying to at least introduce explode style. So we condition them to think we're coming in slow. Then all of a sudden it's one pop flash. You see Taco jumping out, trying to kill one, but most of the time giving the information. One's here, two there, and then we come up cleaning behind them, right? So we try to adapt many styles, and I think that was something that I carry till today. I don't like my teams to have one look, because that's easy. You can, like Vega Squadron, those teams, what we say, they are like the gatekeepers. They can win any team in one match. They're not going to win the tournament.
Yes.
They're going to knock out a top contender, but hardly. Like, unless many, like Mars, Jupiter, everything aligned, they're not going to beat every team like that, because it relies on too many factors. But they're able to beat any team in the world, definitely. And if you're on your bad day, you're going to be really sad. So you have to know how to play against it.
In 10 minutes, I know you're a fucking high-level coach, man.
LEGIJA, I've got a question for you, mate. Obviously, when Big famously played against this team, it was actually more like 2017. It was a slightly different squad, but there's some of the elements were still the same. What I want to ask you, LEGIJA, is what was it actually like to play against Prime coldzera? Like, what was he like at his peak?
Avoid him. Avoid him. No, it was. The problem is this guy's fucking clutch. It's not that he's only fucking good player, but he carries when he has to carry, and he will not give you a fucking easy win. And we were in general a team that we never try to avoid somebody. Like, we obviously try to play a lot anti against him and kind of avoid it, but we had good equipment usage, and I think it was whoever you are, it doesn't matter. We had very good equipment usage, and we can get room if we want to. Sometimes he will obviously shut down 5 people like on Inferno he did, but I don't know. In general, it's hard to say. He was a fucking insane player, and if he has momentum and starts riding the wave, then you will just not stop him. But I don't know. I think that we had for us it was good that we had Thooorin, who was also I would say his best prime time. I would say
it's very good, yeah.
And I think that at this point, I also said it to you when we were in LA, sitting outside, telling you that I think that if he's playing his best game, I think he's the best player in the world in this match, because he can just beat anybody and he will just carry games. And he also gave us as a team a huge boost with his mentality, just how he has been. But I think in general, I think beating SK was for us just by team effort and playing just beautiful Counter-Strike. But see, the thing is, playing against SK and against Fnatic is two different things. I personally think, for example, because against SK you can start playing chess games. Against Fnatic you cannot, because they are, how can I say, they're fucking unpredictable. But SK has always a certain pattern that you can maybe read, maybe not read, but sometimes they will outread you as well, And I think it was a good, Goppy was calling excellent against them, but it was also a team that since we studied them a lot, we obviously knew quite a lot from them and how they play the game. And we also obviously knew at the major that it is going to be Inferno, and we hardly prepared for that as well. I think that the GOP B helped us, I think, the most actually in these games to win.
Were you guys like kind of like similar to us? Because like you had GOP B, which I just from growing up, I remember watching, and I know how good he is. And from talks we used to have in hotels, I know how tactile he could have been. So for our teams, we always said, let's try not to play into the opponent's strength. So if we think like Big is a super heavily tactical team, we're going to try to play a little bit scrimmier and make them out of their comfort zone, right? If they're a team that wants to play off of the rotations and the mollies, we're going to get some more aggressive in their face, pop flashes, things like that. And if we're playing a Fnatic, we're like, okay, this team, we're actually going to try to play with their minds. Let's get in their heads because they like to play gap style. So let's start off let's save a little bit of extra money and start this map with double ops just from the beginning. Because if they try to walk out, we're going to shut them down. And now for the rest of the match, I think they're going to think twice between trying to get so scrimmy on us. So was it like that for you as well, LEGIJE? Because I always wanted to understand how other teams work, like get some insight as well.
100%. And that's what I tell you also, like, we were ready for any style that the team can play just because we were thinking this far to say, okay, guys, there's different styles of Counter-Strike. We have to have answers for every single style. And that's why we were also able to adapt. And GOP was very smart at reading what pace the team is playing and what they're going to try to approach in this game. So he was already saying, guys, I think this style they will play. And we already knew kind of how we have to adapt and play throughout the game. But in general, I think that GOP he's just too intelligent. I'm telling you, because I personally think the Ingame leader that had an unfortunate timing in CS:GO, not because of his age, but if he would actually play now and be like a little bit better than he was when he played with us together, I think he would outcall Glaive 1,000,000%. Because now in Counter-Strike, it's the moment where you can level with your opponents and level with the Ingame leaders. Back then it wasn't, because teams didn't have different styles. Teams are so smart these days. Every single team is so smart these days that they are all now having like answers for everything. Back then it was only for certain teams, but we were smart enough to copy and learn from these teams. And I think that was only the only reason that we could beat big teams like that and upset them. Because I know for a fact teams feared playing against us. Good team feared playing against us. Other teams didn't, like a Vega Squadron didn't give a fuck playing big.
Sure.
But I know that FaZe did. I know that the SK did. Because they knew that we play good Counter-Strike. They understand Counter-Strike on a different level. And they see that. And I know the teams copied also a lot from us.
Just to bring it back a little bit to the coldzera topic, like one thing I want to say about that is, because as you said, like, yeah, like one of the crazy things about him as well is there's a lot of like superstar players, people who are amazing players, who aren't actually that clutch, you know, because it's a different part of the game. Some, like I always used to say, I always thought that was an area where, just as a random example, I always thought like Forrest was just kind of a bit average in the clutch, you know. It could be amazing, like if he's entering a site or something, or if he's in like just a 5-on-5, he'll just destroy the whole team. But you put him in 1v1, you know, there's plenty of players that are worse than him that'll beat him in the 1v1. They just know how to play it better. So the fact that coldzera is clutch, and the fact that, as Zeus says, they set the team up this way, it's a shame, right, that for whatever reason, I think he just never really liked me back then, mate, because I gave him a fucking sick nickname I came up with. Put it this way, think of the nicknames in Counter-Strike I've come up with, like Nip Magic, fucking like the Chosen One, EliGE, for loads of them, mate. I've got Kingmaker for NBK. Like, I always pick the nickname, basically. I don't like come up with it out of nowhere. I try to make it fit the personality or the playing style, right? So for coldzera, the one I came up with it right after the second major one. I called him the Brazilian Terminator, because in the Terminator movies, right, the premise of the Terminator movies is, spoiler, I think sure everyone's seen them by now, right? So there's obviously these killer robots from the future, right, that are coming, and you know that it is their mission once you find out to destroy you or someone else, right? Well, that means, right, you know this guy's coming for you. In the movie, right, the whole premise is obviously he can't just come in the first 5 minutes. Like, you know, the Terminator's, he's coming on a truck, so then you have to get in a car and drive away, but then he catches up with you on a fucking bike, and then you go up an elevator, but he climbs up the window. You know, like, the idea is, the terrifying thing about the Terminator isn't even at the end when he's going to kill you. It's that the whole time you're stressed because it feels like, fuck, this guy, he's never stopping. And I used to feel out with coldzera, because even though people say, like, he's a beta, like, mate, he's the best trade fragger probably ever in that scenario. Like, he didn't bait, because my rule is, like, it ain't a bait if you get the kill. Like, that, you actually played it correctly. And this guy would just, it's like, it didn't even feel like he was fast. It felt like he was just like walking you down, and you just know it's inevitable. Unless someone kills him, he's going to keep coming. He's going to kill this guy, and then suddenly he's in a 1v2. Now he's going to win that. Like, that in a way, that in a totally different way. That can be more intimidating than Simple or something like that, because Simple and them can just blow you out the water. But there's something about that is scary, dude.
Yeah, I think that comparison is really right on the money, because I used to stand behind them. And Cold, like, I'm watching Simple's games, and he's killing guys left and right, and it's insane. And from behind, I swear to you, I never saw coldzera kill people. But somehow, at the end of the day, he had like 30 kills, 25 kills.
Yes.
He was consistently there. And I'm like, oh my God, I remember we were finishing a match. I'm like, Fallen, you played insane. Oh my God, you were insane. And then he's like, yeah, but I couldn't even get like 5. I was 5 kills behind Cold. I'm like, how the hell was Cold in front of you? And no, he was always there. It's like, he gets that first free kill, he gets the easy kill, gets easy kill, and they're coming at him, and he's knocking them down. And it doesn't seem insane. It's like, but it's always chipping away at the economy, always killing every single one, and he's not chasing ecos. And so it does. So you didn't all the time see like 4 spray down or something like that. He had those highlight moments, and those we know were highlights, but he always got 1 or 2 kills per round almost, which is insane. And you never saw it. It just seemed so easy watching from behind. We couldn't even understand. And then when he explained what he was thinking, we're like, holy shit, this guy is on another level, at least right now. Like, he's explaining so much. So we learned a lot from him in the beginning. I think I told Thorin this. He, not only that, he understood so much that he helped make so many calls. It's insane. Like, Fallen had a right-hand man in Cold, that someone who understood tactically the game as well, that was insane. So basically over there, everyone could make calls and make reads, but you had me as a coach who can come up with a game plan to try and anti-strat someone or abuse some weakness. You have Fallen with an insane read from everything, and you have Cold who's reading the game mid-round and giving adaptations. It was so well tactically, and I thank Cold a lot to that. I think we all helped each other, but we learned a lot from him, especially in the beginning. Like, he had some new ideas and new ways to read things just based off of one smoke that he knew that was making the map. So he always knew how to be positioned, because he literally understood the rotations better than anyone at that time. Which makes it now that how is he playing like weird positions in phase now? If I'm coldzera, I'd have to have my positions.
I know what you mean, sure. But the other one as well that I wanted to touch, like, to me, it's easy to transition from talking to Fallen there in that scenario, as you just addressed him, because the contrast I would give is this. This is why when people make teams, a word I try to stress now, because I used to do the same as everyone else. You make a team as if it was like Football Manager. You make like, right, I've got this position, who's the best player I can get, right, but I need a defender. But what you need to do, unfortunately, is you do that first, but then what you need to ask is, like, how do they fit together? Or is there a clash in styles? Or perfectly is, this is why I'm bringing this example up, is when they have different styles, but they complement. So I'll give you the example right here, because in my opinion, a lot of fans, this is where they misunderstood by looking at the players individually, and they don't realize that, like, Fallen and coldzera together, that was the fucking combo. The analogy I'd give is, like, everyone who's watching this video now has been watching Virtus Pro play, because they've been doing all these amazing things, right? Well, Virtus Pro was around before they had Yikinda, and I tell you what, that was an incredibly flawed team. I always used to say, like, dude, I'd never be afraid of playing that team. Look, James baiting here, and then like Kick It and Boston have to go ham in this moment, or James never going to rotate over the site, he's going to save the site, right? If you put in a guy like Yikinda who's the opposite, and he wants to go 24/7 in your face with no utility to attack you, now what do? Now you've got both ends of the spectrum. Like, that's like the push-pull. Like, they can hit you early, so you can't have like played super aggressive with thinking James there, but at the same time, maybe one time you think, oh, Yikinda's coming on the banana now, right? Well, I'll peek out and shoot him first. But now you peek out and James got some off angle, he's just holding. It's like that style together, it's like they cover each other's weaknesses, and then their strengths just become insane. Because if people don't know, when Fallen, this was obviously his best year, 2016, it's like everyone was saying, like, he was number 2 in the world on HLTV and stuff. Like, what I always thought was really underrated was, I know he wouldn't do some of those moves if he was just on a random team where he played by himself. Because when, for example, he would make those crazy CT pushes, like Train CT side was probably the craziest one I've ever seen. This guy would play so aggressive with the AWP on CT side in a way that if you're like a normal AWPer, you wouldn't risk losing the AWP like that. But I always thought, like, he can afford to do that, because think of the information he's going to get. He's got like players backing him up who are more defensive. Like, he had everything, so it was comfortable to do that, even though that should be a real big gamble. So give us some thoughts on this, like how they kind of complement each other.
For them complementing each other, I think it's Fallen. He's an amazing game leader, and he has that style where he likes to go slow. And I think coldzera kind of, even though it's kind of weird, right? Fallen as an in-game leader, he likes to play a little bit more slow, take the correct steps. Like, if you catch Fallen's in-game leading style, he's very step by step, and he takes the steps by step, but his game style is flashy. It's in your face. He can have that op shotgun. And coldzera is the opposite because he's playing from far back and he's taking the free kills and he's asking for a little perfect flashes on timings. Like if he's playing Ivy, he's gonna wait the 2 sets of rotation, smoke left side, right, and then he's gonna ask a flash halfway through and get like 2-3 blind kills. But in his tactical approach to complement Fallen, he was one of the ones that was kind of on my side where he liked to play a little bit faster as a team. Oh, let's just do a 1 pop flash here. Or let's change the pace of this into something extremely fast. So I think that's kind of how it complemented each other there, which is tactically, he like in his game, he was slow, but in his tactical approach, he put something fast that we needed. And Fallen kind of, we already had that slower point, so now we had some faster plays. Or when we're playing slow, now Fallen we can engage. We know, like Fallen's pushing blower on train, like you said. If coldzera is there, he's like, okay, Fallen's gonna take a really big risk. I'm gonna go and play triple inner this round, fuck it, because I know that if they kill the knob, they're gonna be like, let's try to overwhelm side. Now I'm in a really good position. So I think they really just complemented each other and the different styles that they weren't used to. He brought a really fast pace when we were used to slow, and he allowed Fallen to be a little bit more in your face in his slow style that he already liked. So it allowed a lot of versatility and freedom, kind of the James thing. You didn't know if Fallen were more in a double setup now, or if Fallen's in your face, or you don't know if coldzera is just waiting to get a little flash peek, or we're actually just really all of us in your face, and oh, I'm going to take a peek here because I think coldzera is going to be next corner, and all of a sudden there's 3 rifles there in your face because we're coming fast, you know? It was pretty interesting. It's an interesting dynamic, and a lot of fights went into making that work because for everyone to explain their point of views and for us to come to understand, there were a lot of arguments for us to get to this style, like the ultimate combination of how we wanted the team identity to be, right? It had to be a little bit of my personality, of Fallen, of Cold, of Taco, and everyone. And we Brazilians were hard-headed, so we like to have our way more than others. But in that team, we were able to make it work where everyone had their little piece of identity into how we played the game or how we wanted to play it.
I also will throw in there as well, like, think about how crazy that is. Like, if you want to talk about a duo, Fallen and coldzera, that's going to be one of the most clutch duos to ever play the game. And then on that team, you had FNX as well. Like, it's not what, like, if people don't remember, the interesting thing about that team to me was, it's not like you were just, like, utterly destroying teams. Like, you would just win every close game. Anytime it was 14-14, it's like, they're going to win this game. I mean, no wonder with so many players who individually can do it, as a team can do it. Like, the confidence, like, if you know that you've got that many players in a clutch, because I always give this example, right? There's some teams where if I'm in the green room and I see, like, it's these 2 players that are left, I'm like, this is over already. Like, they may as well just save the gun, like, you know. But meanwhile, if the player who's there is, like, coldzera, so I'm like, oh, now it's interesting. Let's see what happens here. So if it must have been like the setup of the team alone must have made people think like we're going to win all these matches.
We were so, those late round scenarios, we were so confident because we knew we had the really good clutchers in Fallen, Cold, and FNX, right? But not only that, I think we used to laugh about this. If those matches got to overtime, we knew we won. We were clutch. We always used to like overconfidence in ourselves. We're like, if we get into the semifinals or if we make it to that stage final, we're not losing as of this point, like when we started getting really good, even though that was true. So, but we just believed that the harder, the most intense the match, we were able to handle that pressure. So that helped in clutches, that helped in decisive rounds, that helped in everything. And that area for our team, that's something you can't plan for. That's really just the personality traits for knowing how to handle yourself under the pressure. You can understand the situation, but if you know what you're trying to do, but your heart's racing, your hands shaking, you're probably going to mess up. And we were able to control our emotions very easily. Like the famous 15-6 comeback against Liquid. Our comms were round by round, guys. Just one more kill. coldzera did an insane jumping kill. And I remember his comm was, oh my God, guys, you don't believe what I just did. Everyone just said, shut up, round by round, you'll tell us after. And only after that map, he's like, you guys don't believe it. And we look up at the screen and we see that highlight. We're like, holy shit, Cold, you did something insane. But during that match, we didn't even let that moment inflate us to where we were a little bit eccentric or crazy. We grew up watching CS 1.6, so we always said we wanted to bring Brazilian passion, but the calmness of the Swedes, right? So Swedes were very calm and something like that. Yes. So for us, we focused so much of our personal effort in practicing during practices, maintaining always the same level of comms, not getting overexcited, not giving the comm like shouting, "Oh my God, one here," because that changes how you're thinking about the game, how you're in that moment, right? So that's something that very much we practice, and I think it helped just going back into clutches, late rounds, overtimes, all that.
Dude, that's hilarious. Imagine doing that insane round, and then you turn to people like, you won't believe that. Shut up! It's next round. We're gonna win this one. It's match point. Like, oh fucking hell! All right, guess I'll just forget about that insane round I just did with all those no scores. Like, dude, that's a sick mentality though. Because but it is way in that scenario, especially like you can't waste a round. Like you have to be perfect to get to overtime. So actually, if someone gets too hype, like I've always said this as well, it's one of the reasons why like teams when they get back to the even scenarios, then they just lose the overtime afterwards. It's like. When you just play, wow, I can't believe we won that round. But you're thinking for half the next round about how amazing it was and the euphoria of it, or phew, we're out of danger now. It's like you really have to have like the grinder mentality, round by round by round.
You have to have it. You have to be aware of that because I don't even know if they like this story told, but I always say this. I use this example in every team. We were playing the match, and Taco did an insane round. It was our first major. He presses tab, and he sees, I don't even think they have this now, but he saw up to the right, like 700,000 people watching the match. And coldzera says, Taco, you hold down the side alone now. And it was like an intense round. So he's like, his heart's exploding, and he does an insane round. And he brings it back, and he says, pause the match, guys, pause the match. And no, let's keep going. The momentum's now. He's like, just pause the fucking match. My heart's about to come out through my fucking mouth. Like, no. Okay. I'm aware that if there's a high likelihood that I might fuck up because I'm nervous now. After I already did the insane thing, we never were nervous during the clutch, but after we won it, we'd be nervous, right? So we knew to identify that, and we were able to always reset our mentality to not be either less communicative or more. We always wanted to be like if it was a pendulum, we'd want to be dead center, balance between emotion and calmness, everything like that. We wanted to have an emotion of, okay, let's go, let's keep fighting, still like bringing in that all the levels of information, but we don't want to overdo it. We're not in the moment anymore, right? If you're missing one key sound thing, or you miss one communication, or you don't say something because you're thinking about something else or something else that happened, that can cost you matches. We know like how much it happens. So for us, it's really, really important, the mental aspect of keeping ourselves calm.
What are you going to say, LEGIJA?
I want to bring out for the people watching this. It's what he says, like with the game with the 15-6 and the comeback. People don't like. I can speak from experience. Like when you're a team, let's say you're 15-6 up, and the team makes a mini comeback, and it's like 15-11. Trust me, your pressure. It like your opponent that has 15-11 has a round winning advantage of so much higher than you actually have. But you have 5 chances to win with low advantage because first of all you get out of ideas. Second, the enemy team is catching a wave and playing with huge momentum, and with each round, your enemy team is getting more confidence, and you're losing a little bit more and a little bit more. And once it's like 15-12, you think, okay, fucking shit, what are we doing, guys? And it's very hard. And I think it's important that you say what he says, like that. But even if it was 15-6, they always believed and they knew, okay, if we focus, guys, we can actually fucking make this comeback. And they don't question the comeback. They don't question, can we make it? They believe it, and they just go round by round.
Yeah. And I thought that thing you said there was very interesting, though, Zeus. The line, it's a great line, by the way, that you wanted to have the passion of the Brazilians, but you wanted to have like the cool, calm exterior of the Swedes. Because that, just a little quick bit on that. Like, one, if people don't know, it's one of the things actually was made me a believer in your team. Was I watched all the 1.6 teams who were from Brazil, and aside from the fact that, like, for example, like since Kogu was like an amazing AWPer, that might make the team sometimes a little bit slower because the AWPer's just going to take his shots. He's not going to just run out on its own. The teams, they really did play like the stereotype of Samba CS. Like, they just played up tempo, fast. Like, think about the Immortals team at the same time we're talking about. That was a team that just hit you in the face with any Luke, everyone. Same now with Furia. Like, it's the same thing. If anything, their focus is on the first part of the round. It's like, how do I do a creative thing here, or create space, or take over it, or hit them before the utility? Like, it actually was a very alien style. So to see Brazilians do it was amazing. And the thing you said about the Swedes, this is one thing I think is probably lost in the modern day, because one thing CSGO players are the best in esports is they've all played so many stage matches. They know that when that cameraman in front of them, that light goes on, after the round, it's time to act. It's time to do something fun for the fans. So Carrigan does his stuff, you know. What they don't know is, if you go back in the day and the Swedish player isn't in front of the cameras where he knows, listen, I've got to like celebrate that I won the round or do something crazy. If you were just in those old ones where we were in a tournament area and there was no crowd, it was just all online. Swedes used to just look like robots. Like, they would do the craziest round and then the guy would just look like, and just like whispering, so he said, yeah, just do this in the next one. You'd be like, what the hell? Like, why are you not reacting? Like, holy shit, you just want to... But I tell you what, that's scary if you see that. Like, I know people think, oh, it's intimidating, you know, when the other team seems hyped. That can be scarier sometimes, that they just think it's normal that they're just winning all these rounds.
It definitely is. There's benefits to both, but in the calmness, you can kind of control it. Like the example LEGIJA was giving. If it's 15-6 and it becomes 15-11, you're no longer in the moment. Now you're just thinking, oh my God, like, is the guy coming out? Is this comeback happening? Anything is keeping you out of that moment in the thought. And that's crazy. Like, the other team's going to be using emotion. But that can be a double like edged sword as well, right? Because sometimes, like, not the 15 because you don't have room to play with, but 14-11. Like the comeback starting 14-12, 14-13. And if one thing goes wrong and you lose that momentum, there's such a shift between the emotion where you're thinking to that downward, like, oh shit, I fucked up or something like that. Now you're no longer balanced or you're even able. Now, you literally just did a 180 and you're no longer in the hype mode and you're full negative now and you're actually going to be making a lot of dumb decisions or bad comms or something like that because of the jump in adrenaline was either too positive or too low. There was such a big difference that you're no longer it wasn't a slow buildup. It was just reversal flat out overnight. So you have to be able to control that.
I've got an example for you. There's a classic quote that I know got made famous last year because I know Zonic said it, and apparently it was something he always used to say, but it was finally like revealed publicly. I think like Astralis' Twitter said it or something. And he had a great quote, which every coach should learn, because this is a brilliant one to drill into your players. Also, along similar lines, he said to them that the most dangerous score in the game is when you win the first half 12-3, because it feels like 12-3. We're almost there. It's like you are 4 rounds away. And I'll even add an extra detail. I'd say the scariest one is 12-3 CT side, because you think the game's won. Mate, winning 4 T rounds can be hard, especially if you end up like, it has to be 4 gun rounds maybe, or, like, the other team wins the first 4 or 5 rounds. Like, 12 isn't as close to 16 as it feels, It might feel like you're almost there. You're not.
The thing is, it changed a little bit with the money system. Back then, you can break teams.
Yes.
Back then, you can break teams, and like you win 4 in a row, then the enemy has full loser bonus, and then they win 1 round, but you win the next round, they're fucking broke again, and then it's like 12-7, 12-11, and that now it's back to the game. Now it's even again. So that changed a little bit. So that's why I think like these comebacks have slowed down a little bit, but obviously it's 100% still
as a premise. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. Right, what about this then? I know since the 2017 one, I wanted to ask this actually, because what's weird is, this is actually how you know how successful your team was at the time, before you went over to Immortals, is, dude, how does a team that wins 2 majors just say like, yeah, okay, Zeus, we're going to let you go, mate. You want to just go be a player? That's fine. Like, we'll just, even though we're literally at the best team in the world right now, God tier, like, no one can beat us. We even look like we've perfected the game. Like, we've got 5-6 maps. Like, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah, we'll just try it harder. Let's just do it without a coach. Like, dude, don't you look back and think, like, isn't there a world in which that would be interesting to see if that team just stays with you as the coach?
Definitely, especially since the Immortals thing was so short-lived, right?
Of course, yes.
And I feel looking back, because we were starting to, like, part of me wanted to go, like, we were all getting in our own heads, right? I'm a really good coach, the most successful team in the world, and I think I can become a player just because I see everyone doing it, and it looks easy, and I understand how things are going.
I hate when people do that, by the way. I just want to say, I hate when people do that. It's always a mistake. Anyway, keep going, yeah. Sorry, Guy, I didn't know you were on the call, mate. My bad, mate.
So, and then for them, they're like, oh, yeah, we're doing so good. No, let Zeus follow his dream. We can still do this the same, right? And obviously they didn't, because they never won another title with FNX. Like, it was literally with FNX, did they?
They were in every semi and final, it felt like, but they never won another title.
Yeah, they never won another title. And then after that, it started dropping where we fought, because we were making, if my memory doesn't fail me, and it could be, I think we were making like every semifinals. That was always our goal. Like, if we maintain ourselves in the top 4, we're going to be biting off enough times that we're going to be winning these titles. And after that, like, it never happened. So looking back, definitely, like, I don't say I regret anything, because every decision I make, I fully believe in, and I go forward, and I had my motives at the time for making whatever decision it'll be. But definitely looking back, not a regret, but there is a question like, what could have been? Would it have changed anything? Would we have not won another title, or would have been, maybe we created an even larger era, right? And for them, I think as well, because looking back, that's kind of why my bear get back, because we look back at like, what could have been? Let's try to do it now, but time had passed.
Yes. I mean, the joke is, like, before they broke up this last lineup with... Oh, wait a second. Has he disappeared? I think he's died again. Ah, he has.
Yeah.
Wait there a second. I wonder what's going on with his internet. And the good news is... Oh, there we go. There you go. Right. Sorry, I waited for you. Are you back?
I kept hearing you guys. It's weird.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's weird. Yeah, on our screen, it looks like you've lagged out completely. All right. Basically, what I was going to say was this. Oh, he's done it again. Fucking hell. Oh, there we go. Wait a sec. Wait there 1 sec. We'll just wait 1 sec to make sure it's working.
Right. Jesus, sure. My representative internet's
I know.
Up. I mean, come on, dude.
It's all right. Right. Basically, when you had, let me think, what the fuck was I talking about there? Let me just
if the lineup we stayed together, looking back.
Was that even what I was going to say? Oh, yeah, the quick thing I was going to say basically was, I know at the end of this lineup last year, after everyone watched that documentary, The Last Dance, everyone was like, we should be allowed another year. It's like, dude, you had that year. That's what this was. That's what the last 2 years were like. That's what 2019 was, everyone. Like, what do you think that was when Zeus came back and Taco came back? Like, that was The Last Dance. Guess what? You know, it didn't work out, so whatever. So anyway, to move on, right, after that, it gets very interesting because you're a guy who's been in a lot of different teams. Like, I actually describe you basically as a coach. Here's the thing, right? You know, in Astralis, right, at the moment, because they've won so much, every player just gets to be the greatest. Like, fucking, well, Device has the most top 5 placings in HLTV. Well, Glave's the best IGL. Well, Sonic's the best coach because they've just won everything, right? So the problem is the trophies blind everyone. But you know, he's lagged again. He's going to come back in a second. My editor, listen, Godspeed, mate. You're going to be fucking in this video hard. Like, it's not like those other ones where you just put the intro on, mate. Yeah. There we go. He's back. Right. I paused it. So basically, when you had this team, where was EliGE? Where did I drop off there? Let me think. Oh, that was it. I actually describe you as a coach. You have the path, instead of like Glaive and Sonic, where you just get into one team and you do everything in one team. And in fact, then, yeah, you're the greatest if you win, but then everyone could also say, but what would you do with different players? You have like the Carrigan swag, mate, where Carrigan's angle is like, listen, I do it with every team. I go to this team here, I take a totally different team here, I take an old team, I take a young team. You have that because I know people are going to think, obviously, when we're talking about MIBR, the bad one, that was the one team that didn't work out. Like, Team Liquid was fucking amazing. Obviously, you were now in Evil Geniuses and got them to a top spot. Like, you've had this approach of moving between teams. So one thing I want to ask as we move into talking about like Team Liquid and EG and stuff, are you able to take like your whole philosophy of the game to each team and then implement it all? Do you have to go? Is it like a negotiation? Like, how much of me can I bring? How much does the IGL need to do? Because obviously the next team is a very interesting one in the context of your current team, because it was the one where you came to Team Liquid, you had Stanislaw, and at the time, dude, everyone was hyped for Stanislaw because of how amazing that Optic team was. So actually, I remember us all thinking, this looks like they've got the pieces here. They could be amazing already. But obviously something was off in the early lineup. Like, that team was way better than the like results looked like in terms of the players. So what's the process like when you're trying to come over to this different team and you negotiate with the IGL?
So like, I have a strong personality. I know how it is, and I have a general philosophy how I like to work. So I approach like every team that either approached me to join or something like that. I try to instill my culture while also leaving them comfortable with key elements that they like to play in. But I do try to force the way that I did. Liquid was really easy because, yeah, I was coming from Immortals as a player, but I had just come from SK and LG as the major champion. So everyone was just eager to like, I'll shut up and you talk and you instill the way you want to play here because obviously you know what you're doing, right? And that's kind of how it was. But the first lineup that I had in Liquid, I joined overnight. It was like Hiko, Pimp, JDM. I think Stanislaw was later. I don't even remember my first lineup with them. But anyhow, like, I had to change a lot of pieces. No.
This is after that. It was obviously, that was it. Hiko, Pimp, EliGE, Nitro. There you go.
EliGE, Nitro, yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
This is when Nitro first tried IGL in, as far as I remember.
Yeah, and so Hiko was trying to do it, but then his style for the time wasn't working. So he was the first move that I had to make and cut, and that was not easy for me to come as a Brazilian because Brazil already didn't like Hiko, but he was like a superstar player considered back then, and I had to make that difficult decision back in the time. And so that kind of gave me a lot of freedom to instill Liquid in a way that I wanted to play. So Liquid was kind of like, from spawn, we have these set things, and over there, I'm like, no, we actually have to understand a little bit about what we're doing. And CS is a little bit reactionary, guys. So we're going to now understand what situations happen. And when these happens, we're going to have all these branches of ways that we can react to what's coming at us. But we have to be on the same page about it. So we then started trying to understand that concept. And that change happened gradually and over time. And every roster change that you saw was then having players that came in and fit a little bit more some areas that we needed, because I believed in Counter-Strike, and I still to this day, that you do need a solid operator, you need an entry and someone that's going to do something like that. But one of the biggest players that I like is that pure aim star chaos maker, right? Which we had in Snacks back in the day, which we thought was amazing. Furfur's Config, I always thought was one of the greats, right? So these kind of players, you need that guy which is bringing that style. And for us, he wasn't the one that's creating that much chaos, but our Aimer Twist, I felt that was the change that actually started to change Liquid into the direction that I wanted, which is a style that we can heavily rely on someone to be that anchor position for us, kind of doing a little bit of chaos just from his headshotting. He had that I tried to set up Russ to be the next coldzera. That's always the way that when I talk to him, I try to explain and give coldzera's thought process through the much time that we had worked together, so that he was solid. We needed someone solid that we could count on and rely, who will take those hard positions like Pit on Inferno, things like that, who are really hard to hold. But if you're a really good aimer, you can hold from anywhere. And there, I feel my culture was pretty much instilled and kind of brought at least into NA, which hadn't happened now. Now every team knows how to do things. Back then, they didn't. So literally, I had to instill a little bit of the European and Brazilian style into an NA team, because that's kind of how I learned in SKLG. But for other teams, to answer your question, people tend to respect me because I talk, like we know it's not only the talks, we talk behind the scenes, is that we talk to people. And so people that bring me onto the team is because they already are convinced, at least to some level, that I know what I'm talking about. They understand the rest and things like that. So they allow me my freedom to instill my style. Even if they didn't, I'd still try to brute force it. Like I said, I am Brazilian. I do have that style. But
sure.
I'm very lucky with being able to have chosen my projects to work on. Well, like with the exception of maybe Immortals and MIBR, which weren't the highlights of my career, they were still products that I believed in and was faithful, and I knew the system and what I was getting into. So I've never had to make a move that was rushed where maybe I'm not into something comfortable. Disagreements has happened, like the first one with Stanislaw and Liquid and things like that, and you either handle it inside or outside. That's kind of how it's going to go, but the philosophy is going to be there, and I think my philosophy has been proven quite a few times too. In a large scale of time, you need consistency to keep reaching finals and semifinals, or reaching good scenarios to win. It's all a numbers game. You want to win more than you lose, and you want to be in more favorable situations. And that's kind of my approach. I don't bring anything crazy because everyone does, but I try to make people understand, and more importantly, be able to work with each other. Because if me, you, and LEGIJA build a team here, we can do something if we know how to talk to each other, right?
Yes.
But if we don't know how to talk to each other, I think that's the most fundamental thing. Then we're going to have an unsuccessful team. It's as clear cut as that. It's a team first place. They need to know where I'm coming from, what I'm doing. I'm going to make mistakes, but when I make mistakes, it was trying to get it right. So no reason to crucify me through others. Just let's talk, and hopefully next time I won't do it again. It's as simple as that. And that's kind of my approach to every team. I first fix the core principles with the team, and then we go into the tactical. I need that foundation base.
Since he brought up Twists, obviously as a player, we have to talk about LEGIJA. What do you think of Twists as a player?
I think one of the best multi-killer as a CT. Obviously, I think also personally the best M4A4 player ever in Counter-Strike.
I think you said, are you thinking of EliGE? I said Twists.
Twist, no, I think Twist is the better multi-spray.
Oh, really? Fair enough. Okay.
I personally think, like, we had this debate also a lot with our teammates back then, but I personally think Twist had better aiming, EliGE is better positioning and better mechanics. I personally think, but spray control, I personally think still that Twist is a little bit over EliGE.
I guess he doesn't need it all the time because he shoots him in the head in the first bullet half the time. Go on.
The thing is, I remember exactly when we moved to NA with NRG, it was also the time when he started playing in FPL in NA. And it was like the debate of him and Sick back then. They were like the two coming up players. And we were also always discussing who is the better player. I think back then already agreed on Twists, and he also showed it when he played with Sean Garris in Misfits.
Yes.
If I'm not wrong.
Yes.
And you already saw that this kid has huge potential, not only because he has good aiming, he was already very good at he had a good game sense. You feel that he has a good game sense. He's aware.
Can I tell a story like it? Just because you're saying that,
yes.
I think it's a really. So how I scouted Twist for Liquid, I think it's hilarious. It was actually during my time in LG. Still, we were practicing overpass. He was already, I think, on Misfits at the time, and he came up long, hit an insane shot on Fallen Truck was up, he hit an insane shot and called Zero's bank, and Twist made sound running to bank, walked back, walked around site, and just jiggle peeked the headshot angle inside bank, SWAT truck, and killed coldzera. And coldzera just like, holy shit, this kid is cheating. And there I knew. I'm like, okay, if this kid isn't cheating, he's good. He just made coldzera like be really upset and outsmarted coldzera in one moment of the game. So I know this kid's gonna be good. That's my story, but that's how I got it.
Sure.
Yeah,
the funny thing is, go on.
He showed the most potential back then, 100% in NA, and I think he was also lucky what teams he joined. I mean, being this young and jumping from basically nothing into a team with Sean Garris, who was like a very good in-game leader, like for NA back then. I think.
Sure.
I never thought he was like something excellent or a genius, but I think for North America, he proved it with his teams that he had before. And I think that he learned good basics already from him that he used with his talent combined. And I'm assuming that he's not a stupid kid. I think he's smart because the way and how fast he has learned tells me that he has some certain intelligence, I'd say, for learning. And
because the interesting thing is, like, sorry, mate, go on.
No, that's it.
Oh, okay. Basically, like, I know, for example, he's another player that I talk to occasionally, right? And he's one of those players where I know he thinks that I give him too much scrutiny, like I shouldn't call him out when he had bad months, or if he had a bad tournament. And I've told players like that so many times. Like, here's the problem, guys. If you want to just be a normal Counter-Strike player, you're just another pro random guy, okay, we can do that. And then if you have a good game, he had a good game this game and he did bad, well, it's just a normal player, good games come and go. I said, the thing is though, Twists, when I can see your skills, the only reason you slump is something in your mind, mate. Like, if you ever watch this guy from behind, dude, if I had to pick a player to have like the skills of, listen, everyone obviously would pick like the cheat and pick like Simple or Zebo or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But actually, like, if you just want like bonkers aim and like you say, like really nice game sense as well, Twists has like unbelievable raw skills. Like, if I were him, I would feel so insanely confident in every scenario I'm in. Like, why not? Like, I can literally one bullet all these motherfuckers in the head. Like, it's just up to me. They can't even do anything about it. Like you say in that example there, coldzera is the best player in the world, but if you peek the headshot angle and instantly kill him with one bullet, there's nothing he can do. Like, he has to shoot you with the one bullet, like that's the ultimate hack to the game in a way.
That kid's mechanics are so like one of the most like high level moments of Counter-Strike, just from pure entertainment to me, was watching him deathmatch. No joke, just always the crosshair placement every time. It looks like it's a robot just going around the boxes, going everything, every angle that you think that CT player would be playing, he's already strafing at the head level, and there's no mix. Like even we used to say the Simple sometimes aims at knee level, something like that. Like, he's insane, but Twist, no, it's always head, it's always precise. Like, mechanically, it's insanely beautiful to watch, and I love that kid. Like, he's a great kid, and I'm with you like on that turn. I think he has the potential to always be one of the best. Like, that was my mode. I wanted to push him to be the best version of himself that he could, because in my opinion, he had the potential to always be in the top 20, top 10, always. Like, it's if his mental doesn't get in the way and he is confident and he's not like being emo about the situation and what's going down with himself, that kid is nuts. He's a monster. I put him on any roster in the world.
It's funny what you said with the deathmatch, because back then we were in EliGE and we were in the house. Gopi used to always spectate Nico when they were in mouse spots, and he said like he was the best player by far on deathmatch because his mouse could be on the top right edge of his mouse pad or on the bottom right or top left. His aiming never changes. It's just always the same, which is not for every player. Yes. And then we went in NA, got two new favorite players on deathmatch because he would play deathmatch. And if he's tired, he just goes spectator if a good player is on, a professional player. And then he saw JKS and Twist. And those two players were his by far favorite players after Nico watching deathmatch. And he would sit there and watch them half an hour play. Look how they take duels, how they spray, when do they tap, when do they, like, how do they react? It was fucking interesting. And Twist was actually the guy, he said, like, he was, holy shit, was he good at deathmatch with JKS. Sure. That's funny that you say it.
And then obviously another player we have to talk about from Team Liquid is EliGE, right? This is an interesting one because I just want to actually get you guys' takes first. Like, what do you think, Zeus? What were your expectations coming into a player like this? And then obviously under you, he really, like, that was when he started to really blossom as like, I always describe it like this. Before you joined Team Liquid and before you guys had that amazing success in 2018, it used to go like this. It was like, wow, they're a really good team for an NA team. after that, it was like, man, they're beating everyone else except Australia. Like, they're just a really good team. Like, they're one of the best teams in the absolute world. And that means, guess what? The star players must be some of the best star players in the world. Like, forget all the stuff from early CSGO where, like, NA was a joke and, they were never at the same level. Like, that team was at the same level. They were above most of the teams in the world. So, what was EliGE like as a player to work with him? And how did you envision his game?
I think when I joined Liquid, I really didn't know how EliGE was, like how John was. But I have a special place in my heart for John because I think he's one of the players that changed the most for the better through time. Like, I have no problem saying this. He was not the easiest to work with in the beginning. He was very set in his ways and like his concept. And no joke, he even brought like a measuring ruler, like a level to see if his monitor was level. Like, he was like very methodical and like in things. So if that's one aspect, like working with him wasn't easy, but he changed and he evolved so much over time, and he learned to listen and to do his work and how he wanted to work and to be able to interact with people and explain like the thing on the communication because he is so smart and he's right 90% of the time. But if he can't get that message across, that message was lost, right? And that's kind of the, now I don't know how it is today, but I imagine it's probably only gotten better because in my 2 years at Liquid, he evolved so much. I imagine he kept doing it, and he's able to give his ideas and feedbacks. And not only that, the way this kid like bettered himself was beautiful. Like, he'd come up in with like a little iPad or a Surface Pro or whatever it was at the time, and he had notes and remarks on the other team and how he wanted to play. And he was studying. He kept constantly studying and trying to evolve. And no joke, Nitro was the IGL. Nitro did a lot of work on the pen and paper, and EliGE helped out on the iPad. So like, these are the best friends of the in-game leaders, like players like this who come and give you information and help you build prep and help you do that. We love those. Those guys can be like on my team all the time because we need people like that. Those are, to me, the really good teammates. And John, like I said, it wasn't easy in the beginning, but he evolved into those. So my memories are really fond. I like to think that I was able to help him like that because my motto as a coach, I don't want people to just be better at CS. I want them to be better people. I try to remember that I'm dealing with human beings, first of all, right? So I try to connect with them on a person-to-person level. And with EliGE, I'm really happy to have him as a friend today because of everything that we went through. We didn't always see eye to eye, but in the end, we made it work because we were able to talk to each other and do everything. And then I value people like that who are able to do that.
By the way, along those lines, I'll give a little pro tip to any pro players who are watching now. This really could help you in your career, right? There are loads of pro players who they don't think they're being used right in their team. Like, the IGL doesn't use me the way, or I don't have the role that I want, or the spot that I want. I'd be so much better if I had this guy's spot, or they played this way around me. Now, the problem with that is you can't just do it like a complaint, like, do it differently on this round now, like, because things have been prepared. We have a system. This is where we're playing. But I'll tell you what, if you're a pro player and you want to be used in a different way, do what he just said there. Go and watch demos and find a team that's doing what you want. If this player, look, they let him lurk at this spot here, but someone covers him. Like, if you come to the IGL like that, you've done your homework and you've shown it and it's going to work, it makes sense. Dude, they might do it. Like, they'll be listening. People love to have extra ideas like that could open up the game, something you haven't thought of before. Like, it doesn't mean you have to be the IGL. You don't have to do it all the time, but just if you want to change it up a little bit, that's how you get listened to, because people are going to take you seriously if they know you did your homework. Yeah,
of course. And not only that, we hate people that bring us problems. You have to bring with a solution. You have to be solution-based solved, right? So don't say, my position sucks. Why does it suck? Give me an example of something we can make better, like using yours. Give me how you want to be utilized. Don't just say I'm being utilized wrong. Then how can we make you be more effective? How do we have some examples of someone that does it? Or even if it's something new that you just theorized out of your ass, but you want to try, we can try anything that you want, but you have to give me something to try. If you're just saying it's a problem, that's not helping anyone. And then I think that for every CS player, wannabe or the one that's here, because even though I say this, it still dumbfounds me that so many players in Counter-Strike are still like this at the highest level, that they don't have that mentality or self-awareness to just be a little bit more helpful and understanding in how to give the idea or how to present the idea. Because if you do your research or if you present it in the correct way, people listen. But if you're just throwing things out and hoping something sticks, that's really hard. You like an example my dad gave me when I was young. Like, if you see someone pushing the car on the side of the road, you might stop to help. But if he's just there with the sign asking for a ride, much more likely that he won't get help. Yes. So you want to help people that are being helped.
Yes, great example. Yeah. By the way, on the EliGE topic though, to bring it back a sec, one thing that's very interesting is like that's one of the players where like I'm not even bragging. Like here's one thing people don't know. Think about what my persona is. My persona is I'm the hater. It's like for example, everyone now loves Yakinda, right? I love him as well, but the problem is if everyone hypes him and makes it sound like he's already complete, all it's going to sound like I'm saying is the things he's not yet fixed, like he's still young, he's still inexperienced, he's still like, teams are going to get used to him, so it'll sound like I'm a hater, right? So the reason I set that up is because I don't just pick like 20 players and hype them, but I tell you what, when I hype the players, I have a fucking good track record, mate. So I was calling EliGE as like the best NA player and more in early 2017, mate. Like, and the reason why I'm not claiming to be a genius, I've just watched a lot of Counter-Strike, this is the reason. Kind of like I said with Twists, where it's like if you got those skills, mate, it's something mental has to be fixed. It was like that with EliGE, right? I could see this guy already is clutch in some scenarios, if it's maybe not a big game. This guy already has, like, clearly, like you're saying, he has an idea of how he wants to play, and I've always viewed him as a player where, like, the word for me, it reminds me of coldzera, it's like control. It's like the way that they control the game is what's so interesting, because a lot of players who are very good, maybe they want to just use their aim, so you up the tempo, you go fast, you make it chaotic. No, players like EliGE and coldzera, they kill you by making the game slow. You go at their pace. They take the fight when they want to take the fight. They take it in the way they want to take it and the way they've practiced a million times. So when I saw a player like that, and the interesting thing to me that he's become such an amazing, consistent player now is he was a player back then. This is the reason I made the call, and I think other people didn't, is he did clearly have some sorts of problems. Like sometimes maybe he would choke in a game or pressure would get to him or he'd outthink himself. Dude, a player like that, you won't always get over it, but everything else was there. He just needed that mental aspect to be fixed, And now it just looks incredible. Like now you can see what can happen when you remove the barriers,
Yeah, he has achieved what Twist still has to achieve, I think.
Yes.
And I personally think that what makes EliGE special, I think, is there's two type of players that can prepare for a game for themselves because they understand watching a game and they can set up plays by watching and knowing what the enemies are doing. And some players, even if they're professional, it's crazy what people actually wouldn't know how to do that.
Yes.
But he's a player that actually understands how to play anti and create own plays during a round because he just simply sees something happening during the game, and he has
legitimately one of the smartest star players I've ever seen. Yeah.
Yes, and that's why he's for me kind of like electronic. Like electronic is also when he sees something, I know 100% he can always make a play out of a scenario. But he's mechanically, I think, like way faster and like mechanically stronger than electronic is. But yeah, I think he can prepare himself. Like that's what I personally think, and I wonder if that comes maybe because he was playing professionally StarCraft 2, and that's where you like kind of obviously build up your own thing. You watch for the games from other players.
Yeah. Tendencies, of course,
and you probably learn from that. So, but yeah, I think that he has achieved what Twist still can achieve, and I agree on you that he's the best NA player actually right now, 100%.
Sure. Right, here's the one that I wanted to flip over and ask, though, is before we talk, because there's obviously we can have a really interesting discussion about EG now. On the Team Liquid topic, another thing I wanted to ask was this. One area that I feel like is really misunderstood is maybe this is like the scenario before where when people talk about SKL luminosity, they don't necessarily put in all the factors. So, for example, like it was Fallen and it was Cold who were calling at times. And also at the same time, Zeus was there as a coach. So, like, if you take one piece out, you're taking something away from the whole, you're going to lose something. So, similarly, I feel like when people look at that team, they either think, right, so Nitro just got really good as an IGL, but then they were fine with his coach leaving in Zeus, or maybe Zeus was a really good coach and Nitro was just doing all right and was leveling up. Like, what was the relationship like with Nitro? Because obviously he is someone who, as I alluded to before, he'd already done that thing where like no one wants to be the IGL, so you do it for like a month or two, but you know those players are going to quit after a while because it sucks, especially if you're a player like he used to be. So how did you build it up with him? Because I know since you guys didn't win that many trophies, people don't look at that year as so crazy, but like to me, I also look at top fours and finals and top eights. Like I look at consistency and the number of times that team was excellent. Maybe not in the final against Astralis. It's underrated. Like I feel like that team will never be given its due credit. So if you get to that level, you can't be a bad IGL in my opinion. There's got to be something you're doing correctly. So give us some thoughts on Nitro to work with.
So Nitro was kind of that guy again. Like towards the end, like since I've been there so long, people needed to evolve and reached certain point. Nitro in the beginning, he did have like, oh, LGL, but then back up out of it, change the mind. And what I used to tell Nick in the beginning is, you need to pick something and you dedicate yourself to that. Like, focus on going for it. If you want to be the op, you're going to op. If you want to IGL, you IGL. But you don't pick it up and you leave it. Like, we need consistency and we need you to be doing something. And you also can't have that mentality where you're just constantly changing. And so once he really embraced the IGL thing, he's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to dedicate myself. He had a great work ethic. He was, like I said, the best friend of the IGL, but in this case, best friend of the coach, because he did a notebook, writing reports on other teams' matches. So he was knowing how he wanted to IGL into those matches because he knows what the other team give, and he was helping me distribute that information across. He was the guy that, he also didn't have all those roles, but since he wasn't a natural born opper, he still could rifle. So he gave our team a little bit of versatility where we could be a little bit more fast-paced and explosive and just be up in their face. And he knew exactly when to switch that up. Like, we had some key words where we just wanted to change it up, and he understood now it's time to rifle and speed up and change the pace and go. So it was a lot of back and forth in the beginning where I think, no joke, myself and Taco were able to help Nitro get to be a really good IGL based off our experiences and when to be calm and when to let the other team mistake and when it's time to change pace and tempo. But when he got into his flow, we didn't need to do it anymore. Then we're like, we can be a little bit more hands off, and you dude, full on, you're just killing it, keep going. And that's kind of how that 2018 was. He, like, for the first month he was getting into the groove, and once he got in it, then nonstop, just keep going. Unfortunately, we didn't have the results against the Charlottes, like I said. I think we lost 8 finals to them that year, which is frustrating as hell looking back on. But against other teams, there were tournaments where teams couldn't get double digits on us, and we only lost to Australis. And we got to the finals without taking 2 digits from any other team, but then in the finals, we'd get massacred from Australis. It was a pain in the ass, but we take those. I mean, of course, we want the trophies, but that does leave some level of comfort knowing how good we were, right? And I think Nitro helped. Like, again, a team is a sum of its parts, but Nitro was at least one of my best friends in there in the terms of for the professional sense for how much he did. So I felt it was such a shame to see him go through Valorant because different than other teams, because teams didn't give him a chance or didn't believe in him without knowing every part of the equation. He wasn't just the in-game part. He was the out-game part. He was a leader. He was a best friend. He was the one guy that every teammate could talk to, and that's invaluable to a person, right? So I'm sad to see him go, but such high praises in my memories, at least for Nitro.
I know that actually, I think it was maybe Twist said it in his interview when he was leaving Liquid, something very similar, which is what you just said at the end there, Zeus, which I noticed when I saw them in real life, at the after parties or whatever, like if they're just outside the venue and stuff. He's the guy who's everyone's friend on the team. And what people don't know about professional teams is this, right? They think it's one or the other. They think it's either football and everyone's just a professional. You go to your locker, you get dressed, you come in the and then on the pitch you play together. Or they think it's like some fucking fantasy where it's like we're all best friends, like, like good night, Device, good night, Cliff, good night, next. Like, it's not the fucking Waltons or something. So it's more, most teams are right in the middle. Most teams is like, right, these two are really good friends, but they maybe don't get along with this guy. But this guy is friends with 2 of them, but only one of them is friends with him. It's like, it's complicated, but you need that to have a balance as well. You need a personality balance. And I noticed in that team, listen, on camera, Stewie's the guy who's the glue guy because he's the guy shouting and that. But Nitro was the guy who everyone seemed to be able to get along with. And I'm pretty sure once he went, that's why you start to saw the cracks in Liquid, because when that's gone, that's the emotional side of the game's gone then.
Yeah, he's like the positive neutral kind of personality, right? He's always on the fence. He's not going to criticize you or hurt you, but he's there. He's always someone you can count on, and that's really good, especially when it's your IGL. If everyone's comfortable enough to talk to their IGL about how they want to play or want to be utilized or problems going on the team, that's really easy to get things done, because that's the guy who's going to be calling the shots inside the server. As much as I'm an active coach, I don't have a keyboard and mouse when I'm playing up on those stages. So it's the players that have to make those decisions, and you have to trust someone to make those decisions. You have to trust whoever your IGL is to the fullest, and that person will have everyone's trust for most of the time. The moment they don't have it anymore, kind of happens where that's when they went for a change and what it went. But when he had that trust, he proved to me and everyone else what he could do.
LEGIJA, obviously, that's something we've talked about in the past on here, but maybe you can touch on it, because I always give the example, I've done it on many past episodes. If people look at the first big lineup to bring Xantares in, where you had this lineup where it's like, right, look, the skill upgrade, this is when Big's going to get really good. That Big was worse than the one you were in LEGIJA, because you were exactly what he was just describing there. You know God B, you know how to talk to him, you know how to get an idea across to him. So it doesn't matter that, like, skill-wise in CSDM, obviously Xantares is better than you. Actually, for the team can be worse as a result.
Yes, obviously. Also, you have a system, and once you take a part out, you have to bring back this part again in, so that your machine functions.
Reintegrate, yes.
Yes, you have to bring the same part, or as soon as possible, integrate the new part into your system. And if your team is not, if your new player is not smart enough and cannot adapt to your system, and because us back then, we forced our new players back then, Smuya and Xantares, to play our system, but our system was developed so far already that these players needed to catch up so long to even get implemented into it. And that was our mistake, I personally think, that we had to change it. But it's so hard for new players to get in a team and just playing with the whole new system. That's why we had to say, I personally think that we change it up and like adapt more to them, because we knew how to play a different Counter-Strike. And yeah, I think, I don't know, it was hard when Xantares came. We had many problems with Xantares. Also, his language barrier was like a very, very big problem, I think, in our team.
Sure. Right, Zeus, the one last player in Liquid before we move on and talk a bit about EG. I've got to talk about Naf, obviously, especially because when you were in that team, when he first came into Liquid was when he was really blowing everyone away. Like, that was when he was nuts. So give me some thoughts. So who is Naf as a player?
So Naf as a player is, to me, he's plug and play. Just situations that he's kind of what I think you were describing about Electronic. I see Naf. He's not going to be like, and this is no offense to him because I love him, but he's like not the best teammate when he's the guy you're going to want to talk to all the time and explain the problems, or he's not going to sometimes say it in the nicest way. But put him inside the server, whatever situation just happened, a kill happened on the left side of the map, or you need a player cat, he already does the math so fast in his mind, he knows where to plug and play, what adaptation needs to be done. And kind of, he's that player where maybe not for the full tactical aspect of the team, he's not going to be calling the entire strat around it, but if you can rely on that player to fit into any situation with the op, with the clutch, with the multi-frag, with having that just deadpan serious to do a ninja defuse, because that's the only way you're going to win that round is if the other guy doesn't peek because he's in such an advantageous position. He knows how to read the situation and adapt very easily. And to me, talent-wise, just naturally talented for the game, Naf is in my top 10 or top 5 even in the world of all time, because he's not the perfect person, teammate, and it's hard to be that, but just from the talent perspective, what he can do is out of this world. When you watch this kid, he's so intelligent playing, but he just can't tilt himself, or just he has to be in the right mood and the right mentality for it all to work out, I think. But when it is, he's shown like that. When he joined, he was coming from Renegades. They let him take all the spots he wanted. He was just playing happy. He was getting 30 bombs almost every game because he just was comfortable, right? So that's kind of what my advice to whoever coaches Naf will always be: just leave him comfortable, because he can make a lot of insane things happen, right? You don't let him take the reins and do whatever he wants, but make that extra effort to make him comfortable, because he can be the game changer in a player, I think. And I think Taco, again, was one of those rare teammates that was able to get through to Naf in a way that very few others had done before, or even are able to replicate. Get that emotional side and become a really good friend, try to help the person understand why some things should be done, or how should they be done, or how could it be done in a better way. And I think that's when Naf started to flourish, at least in Liquid, because he came flourishing and he had his moments, but he then became really consistent during Taco to be doing that under a Liquid, right? And I think I'm really thankful for Taco on that. I think he along with Nick were the glue in helping players like Naf, EliGE, and Twist be able to bring out the best in them.
What do you think, LEGIJA?
It's interesting because when we said what we always said and valued most, not most obviously, but a lot about Naf, which people don't value, I think, a lot. He is the best anti-eco player in the fucking world. He is the best against guys who have deagles. Like, he will just kill you. He will make every eco 3 kills, which is like these days a very dangerous round. Like, how often do you lose eco rounds? And we always said, like, it's impossible to lose to win anti-ecos against back then Renegades when he played for them, and after that in Optic, I think. When he played for Optic, we said we just don't force the guy. He was so good in these rounds, and he's just a reliable player. You know what you get from him, and he consistently delivers. You can tell obviously by his motions and how he's playing on land that there will be probably something that he's not always in the best mood, or that he's not like a hype up player. But it's fine if you know what you get from a player and you can live with that fact, then it's fine. But I personally think he's like absolutely insane. Also, but people, what I personally think, his AWP is actually very underrated.
Yes,
he can actually be a very, very strong second AWP and hold the bomb site on his own. He's a good multi-fragger. He's like overall very good player. I wouldn't say like that he's a big help. I personally think, or I'm assuming that he wouldn't be like a huge help in mid-round calling or whatever. But I think he's an insane soldier, basically. You tell him what to do, he will follow and he will just kill. And probably if he enjoys playing, then he will obviously deliver way better. But yeah,
I've got a few angles on this one for you. So first of all, one of the things I think is very interesting about Naf's style of play is obviously everyone makes that meme that he's like a sloth, because in real life he's like got a really sort of like lazy way of moving, and he's super chill. And like, I won't say why, but there's obvious reasons, why that would generally be in his life. So I'll say this, right? This is what I want to add in. Even though in the game that happens as well, like he's never the guy like rushing, he's never the guy going really fast and so. But I tell you what, he's never baiting, he's never just on the other side of the map doing nothing, he's never behind. Like you never notice why he's out of position. So what that tells me is he must have a really good understanding of what he's supposed to do, because he's going at exactly the right pace. It's slower than someone else maybe would, but he knows what he's doing in that regard. Like that's a type of intelligence that's really underrated. There's a lot of players. I mean, you've said it many times in this episode, LEGIJA, but it's because fans always misunderstand. Like just because someone has amazing aim and got to tier 1 doesn't mean they know everything about the game. Like it's a different skill set. So there are a lot of really good players aim wise who don't even know what they're doing in the game sometimes, or what they're supposed to do in this scenario. Like if the IGL dies and he can't talk, well now maybe that guy's just stuck, like he's just figuring it out for himself. So it's actually quite underrated that a player knows what he is supposed to do and just stick to it. Because that's why I always thought, this is my side point I was going to throw in. There was that stat people saw at the end of 2019 where after Team Liquid again had lost to Astralis a million times, the only player who had actually like half decent stats against Astralis was Naf. Well, it doesn't surprise me. Like, this guy looks like the others, right? I think we're all in their own heads, and then they were trying to do different things, or they were trying to, right, we're going to do something different than last time. This guy just looks like he played against Astralis like he did against anyone. That can be its own strength as well. What do you think about some of this, Zeus? Obviously, as a mental player, he's an unusual guy, right?
Yeah, definitely. But I think you're pretty spot on. Like both of you, actually, he's a great soldier. Because you just inside the server, he knows what to do, knows how to adapt, knows how to do everything, and just his laid back persona allows him to. I don't care if I'm playing Astralis, if I'm playing Vegas Squad, if I'm playing a tier 20 squad. I'm going to be playing the same way, doing the same things. So for him, it's a little bit on the mental. It's staying in it and not. The thing is, when you're so good at doing something, it's easy to get frustrated when you see that others aren't as good as you at that, right? So because I know what I'm supposed to be doing. If you don't know, it's easy to get frustrated. Then there's two ways you can go. You can teach them, or you can get upset about it. I daily want to teach so that we're on the same page, and that's kind of where Naf had to get in, which is we obviously know what you're doing and what you're doing and how to get there. And what we want is that, sometimes some of your strengths aren't the other strengths, and some of their strengths aren't yours or your weaknesses as well. So try to learn what this person has as a good strength. Okay, he doesn't have to be inside the server. If you're really good inside the server, and every team, people don't like saying this, but guess what? Every team has a player that's better than others, that understands more about the game. There's one, we had Twist, who's insanely mechanically skilled. I can't expect to put myself into that position. So if I'm playing Counter-Strike for them, I'm going to try to be a little bit smarter, use my smoke. So Twist has to learn from me how to use smokes, and I have to learn from him his positioning and his confidence to keep playing that style. And with Nav, it's kind of that he knows how to do the game. He knows how to headshot. So the other areas that to improve would be outside of the game factors for him in terms of making things better, learning from other people, and that makes him very valuable because you can count on him inside the server if everything is there. And that's basically it with Nap. It's like you know what you're getting, you know who he is. It helps a lot. It helps a lot that the teammates know who you are. They know how to deal with you. It's as simple as that. So some are more laid back. Some are going to get more frustrated. But what we can't have is escalations where more people are getting frustrated. And I think he's a very laid, chilled back person where He normally doesn't let that happen. He'll just come up like, we'll have a meeting, and he's just like, guys, I'm weird. I'm weird. So kind of just de-escalates the situation.
Okay.
Like de-escalates the situation, won't let things get worse. So, and I think that's something he did. All the Liquid players I saw develop themselves in the career and become better people. And I love looking back at that. Like I pride myself looking back at that, knowing that at least a small part I had in that. And with him, I don't know how they are today. It's been 2 years, but I only imagine it can be better a little. Like if they kept the philosophy, it's every day become a little bit better, and I hope they kept that up. But with NAF,
sure,
amazing.
Right, when you came to join Evil Geniuses, because we're going to skip the MIBR part. Look, first of all, there's only so much time in the episode, and secondly, I don't want to even fucking hear about that. Like, that's that's for your fucking memoirs when you retire, mate. You can tell all the stories there on that one. Like,
one day the book.
Exactly. Let's skip to Evil Geniuses. It's more fun, right? Here's one thing I think people have forgotten. Because now, obviously, the team's having its issues again. You're going to have a roster move. People have forgotten when you came into this team. When you joined Evil Geniuses, dude, nobody thought just a coach change is all that team needs. Like, that team was at the fucking rock bottom. And at the time as well, the reason I knew that team had massive problems is, look how skilled the players are. So if you're as bad as that team was at the time and you could lose to almost anyone in NA in those scenarios and you never win in tournaments, like, in that scenario, normally in teams, fans always want one player cut. Dude, that was the point in time where they were almost willing to cut anyone. People were like, right, cut Stanislaw, and then maybe kick Tarek, and then is Ethan even good? And then, fuck, like, Breezy's off his game, and Cirques, like, everyone was in bad form. So give us some sense of, like, when you came into this team, what kind of things did you try and change or try and improve? Because if people remember, when you came into the team was when they not only won a whole bunch of tournaments that summer, but you won 16 maps in a row. Against, by the way, Team Liquid, Gen G, like all the best teams in the region. So this is not like you were playing against the bad teams. Give me some sense of what did you turn around in the squad?
So, as always, like when I joined this team, I try to work at that foundation. I try to gauge where their foundation level was of the chemistry of the team, of being able to talk to each other. And I'll just say this openly, this is my team now, and I know what I can and can't say about them, right? So with them, I just reset everything, and not from a tactical perspective, but from a match. I said, guys, it's as simple as it, because I saw a lot of frustration, because once you're in that slump, you start nitpicking at a lot of things that are going wrong, and you're getting really frustrated, and you're getting pissed, and there's hesitation. Like, and I saw it's a bunch of little things that were going on. So we just needed to reset, and when we reset, it was like, guys, first thing first. I don't care if we're doing the right idea or the wrong one. We're gonna figure that out starting after with the reviews. From now on, if someone makes a call, we're doing that call till the end. It's better for five of us to do the wrong idea together than to have 3 right ideas and we do separate ideas and guess that round doesn't go. So that was kind of the first point. The second point is I want to gauge who they are. Like, no joke, this is the team that resembles me the closest to how I was in LG, because I thought they were really good friends. Like Thorin was saying, we don't get that in Counter-Strike. And we had a really solid foundation of friendship. They already knew how to speak with each other. They were friendly. They were open. So it was just more, no joke, just, okay, lower your expectations a little bit. You're going to win games that you're not supposed to, and you're going to lose ones that you were supposed to win. Rounds like that happen. It's Counter-Strike. It's about consistency. It's about trying to get the most out of these situations. So we reset, lowered our expectations, and just started working together. And the main thing was, we're on the same page. We have to be on the same page. Not only on the same page, we have to be in the same chapter and hopefully the same line, so that we're at the best detailed position. But at least on the same page we have to be. We have to understand our ideas. So we started talking a little bit more. How do we want to play? Is this it? Do we want to change spots? Yes, no. Okay, we're going to change a few spots. Try. Did you like it? Yes, no. Like this, keep this. Didn't like that. All right, this has changed. Now we have a way we're going to play. Now we make this better. Had a match, review that match. This we can do differently. Next time, we won't get this wrong. And kept doing that. And on this one, then I kind of fit a little bit of the meme. Stanislaw is a great in-game leader. He knows strats. He knows how to get things done. I didn't even have to change that much. I brought some things from MIBR, some concepts, some things that I like to play, like overall, some kind of just broader ideas, and one or two off strats here, kind of like some go-to strats that I thought, oh, these ones we can use on key rounds because these normally have a higher chance of success rate. And we just kept making it better and making it better. And that, I just became the hype man for a little bit. I wanted to get them pumped. I just needed to get these guys believing in themselves again. And that's kind of how I wanted to hope to change things around. And it did, thankfully, because all we needed was one win to get a little bit of confidence. And I think that win was against MIBR at Blast. That one was gigantic. Over there, I kept hyping, and then we started believing, and then I started seeing everyone people who have these kind of like chill personalities started celebrating. Then Tarek, who's already naturally celebratory, starts celebrating more. And then you see Peter and you see Cirque getting that energy back. And that's kind of how we were during that time. Then later on, we adapt and we keep going and trying to make it better. But for our first stage, it was a hard reset in EG.
Sure. By the way, just one thing before we get into some more about the team. Like, one thing I've just realised there is, like, the team, when this team was on its massive roll, was also when you had this insane streak on Inferno, right? It's funny because people are going to think just of the last few years of the Brazilian teams, and obviously Inferno's the map they never really figured out because they always had the problems of, like, who do we play in B, and then if we use coldzera the A, then people just go B and exploit Fur and fall in there or whatever. Like, you always had problems with when you weren't in the team mostly. But I've noticed, dude, every one of your teams that you're the actual coach of, usually their best map is Inferno. And if people don't realise, to me, this is why in 1.6 Inferno was my favourite map. In my opinion, Inferno is the map that all styles of Counter-Strike can be played on in theory. Because it is, like, in theory, the most balanced map. There's never like, oh, right, you win 11 rounds on CT rounds, so you just, like, it's really easy to hold and it's really hard to break. No, it's like, because everything's possible. That's why you've seen so much utility in innovation on that map. I mean, even the obviously, Godby's Big was doing it on that map. Some of the things that they came up with, the Molotovs and some of the flashbangs that other people didn't have. Like, this is one area, Zeus, where, like, again, like I said about Nitro with all those finals, like, you can't be a bad coach if you're always getting your team really good on Inferno. Like, that's a really hard map. It's all about reading the pacing, the utility. There's so many things you can try. So give us some thoughts on the map.
I think Inferno it's one of the most solid maps in the pool in the sense that everyone knows what you have to do. You have to take banana control. You have to take mid. Yes, you can have set strats, but that goes into CT and T side both start at banana in my point of view. You can try to change it towards mid, but default what the world's going to do is there. So first, we have to have a really good banana player that knows how to identify what's coming. He has to have really good communication to ask for the flashes because he's going to have to do, as a T, he's going to have to position himself to either put out a smoke or get asked for flashes and keep taking control of banana and holding utility to some point, or at least he's the guy who's going to say, rotate it out of B, kept one in B. So the most important piece is banana, CT and T side for me on Inferno. And there's so many ways to take banana. You can have the guy that's just doing flash peeks. You can have smoke. You can have full molly takes. You can have retakes. I'm not even kidding. I think I did the list when I was writing down what we have in EG. It's like, I think we have like 30 ways to take banana on CT side. Like if we want to play it, I'm like, we can't even do that in the match. So it's important.
Of course, yeah.
It's impossible for you to know what you're going to be facing in a match. So it's literally someone there that just knows how to read those situations. And luckily for me, in my teams, I always had that one really good player. In Liquid, it was EliGE. In the beginning, even LGSK, and the older version of Inferno, where we still had the actual car and like the straighter like Madena, we had Fallen and Cold who knew how to use the utility there. And in my team here, Ethan and Tarek were insane in bananas. Most specifically, Ethan in this case, because he's also the T1 as well, right? Like Tarek is amazing at leading the CT, but Ethan is in both the T and the CT sides. So having that player, then it's on the rest of the team to understand the idea of when you can't have every area of the map utilizing themselves at the same time. If Ethan is going for banana and he's asking for Cirque to be there supporting up, there's no use in us trying to really brute force halls at that time. We can wait that extra 15 seconds to take halls or to take mid and have that player who's going to come and support and actually smoke off one side or flash away. Or even if we're just taking dry peeks, at least we know where we want to be our strength and not. So Inferno, if you know on a T side where your strengths are, you're going to be able to understand rotations and where you want to go as long as you know going forward. CT side, this is maybe even giving it away. It's just save a fucking smoke or a Molotov, guys. Come on. Yes. Like, if they're coming into banana, if they execute, guess what? You smoke the entrance of banana last second. Now they're running through either a smoke or a Molotov. You have a choke point where you can literally funnel them. And in mid or halls, SCT, that's a little bit harder, but it's just having your players be on the same page to understand setups where they can crossfire or a flash peek to be together. I think it's the most fun and complete map. That's what I said, solid. So I think it's like maybe sometimes it gets even repetitive because we know what's coming, but for a tactician, for someone that likes to watch beautiful tactical Counter-Strike and understand it, Inferno's the most fun map to me by far. It's the one where I have more fun playing and coming up with ideas and trying to read the situations.
Come on, LEGIJE, obviously your team's enjoyed this map as well. Give us some thoughts on this map.
No, I can share his opinion. I think you need very good side players in this case. Like your B banana player, as he says, he has to be ready and has to have like absolute every scenario in the head and have reads on your opponent and have to know all the answers and every counter for the players, and also has to have like insane communication or team play with his other two players, in this case then Cirque and Tarek, the AWPer most of the time. And your apps players, we always said in our team, obviously when we play a heavy banana, they have to be a little bit worried about on the other side, but the good apps player makes the difference when he sometimes once or twice in a game then finds the gap and knows, okay, this is the moment, then I can push. And if you have an apps player like that, and many teams, I think, who's your apps player actually?
Our apps is Breezy, yeah.
Breezy, yeah. He's actually insane. He also plays, I think, CT Pit.
Yeah, he plays CT Pit and T-Sped as well, both.
Yes, that also is a big advantage, and he will also know timings, and that also helps, I think, this team a lot. And I personally think that these two players are the best, the most important guys. And also reading and understanding, like, for example, for Ethan, reading and understanding of what way can we enter bomb site B, for example, because there's, I think, on Inferno, you can have like different ways how you approach on Banana. You can play executive style, but it's a very, very dangerous for explodes, the bomb site, because most of the time, like, people are peeking, like opening the pool and with one flash and two good following flashes, it's very hard to hold the bomb site. And once you have bomb site in a 2v3, it's still like sometimes advantage for you. So I think it's personally very important also that the players understand, and with the knowledge of him, if you teach your players all the possible ways and they are smart players and know, okay, this is what my coach told me, if they play this style, we can explode against them. If they play, if they use their equip early, we can just wait and play execute late against them, or even fake against them, because they will have to rotate with 3 people with no equip on B. And once you understand all these things, Inferno is a very advantageous map for you.
Yeah, and it's a map that you have to know how to play. It'll always be in the pool. It's like during Liquid 2018, I used to say Inferno will always either be someone's pick or a third map decider. It's as simple as that. It's a third map decider. Today, I think we're getting into a meta where third map decider is either Inferno or Nuke. Now every team has one or the other really strong, where you have to have one of those as a third map decider trying to. If you want to have an advantage in the vetoes, right? Inferno is going to be appearing there. If not, it's going to be a Nuke. But just staying on Inferno, what you're saying, it's really hard for B. Why is B always so important? Because, like LEGIJA says, as soon as a T takes over B, to retake that side, it's really hard, depending on the level of space that you gave him. If you're rotated fast and you still have backhauls, a little bit easier, but still a hard retake. If you don't have backhauls, Jesus, you're really fucked, boys. That's kind of like how you know. So you're both B players, and this is advice that, like, for anyone, watch how Astralis plays, and you'll understand this. Not both B players are working at the same time. One guy is doing that supportive element a little bit more, be it with a smoke, be it with a flash. They know your first contact, I'm second. So you're a shot, and you're going to survive and kill, and I'm blocking them off, and I'm trying to funnel or stop them and give us time to actually make our things. And if they're brute forcing through this, well, guess what? Now we just stopped them and gave them a little bit of something going on where we both are going to force a fight where it's an uncomfortable fight for them, right? But if you have teams where, one guy is playing Coffin with the op, and the one guy is top triple or like hidden triple, and he doesn't want to support, like, you're going to give him duels, and it's so hard to just win flat out duels unless, like, you pull something out of your ass and you're able to make a really good round just because either the other team really made a mistake or you got some really nice shots. But ideally, every team is coming in, they're going to have set flashes. You're going to be blind. You're going to be burning. You're not going to be in a comfortable position. So B players know how to play together. Don't have that ego where we both have to be killing at the same time. One help the other based on who's strong on who saved utility, and you're going to have a really solid banana player.
I think Inferno is also a map. I think Inferno in general is a map where you can set up your enemies the most on a map, because it is a very close gap map. So often with one smoke, you can like close the whole area out. Like, you have B split smokes, you have short smoke, you have long smoke. You can cut so many areas off and always like playing in one area and always push one step the enemy further back. You gain already a lot kind of from how much percentage of the map you get, quite easy control, and you box them in like a smaller area. Like on B, if you have big banana control, they're on a small circle on the map. 2 players on B. A players obviously have a little bit more space, but you can gain this space. And I think you can play chess a lot on Inferno, and that's why I think it's it's a very advantageous map. If
look what Liquid did, right? That and that Inferno right now, where they kind of like, you can use smokes on A, which I think are so cool, to kind of direct the flow of traffic. Oh, yes. you smoke Arch, and now we have mid, but now I smoke a little bit deeper into Arch, and I can actually get into T-spawn, so I'm making you rotate out of the library. And now later on, I'm actually smoking Archway and inside the library, so I'm actually going, or no, you're trying to that Arch player. You can play with his head so much. Are they going B? Do I have to rotate B? Do I have to stay in CT spawn? Do I have to play towards side? Are they doing a hall spot? Like, that guy he has to have such a good read on the game, right? And us as coaches or our IGLs have to always try to be making that guy the most uncomfortable, and so that he gets in his own head and he's making the wrong decisions. And that makes it easy to go into B. If there's only two there and you're the rotated far away, you're good. If you're going into CT spawn and your A player whose Arch is locked side, you're good. If you're going into A and he's CT spawn because he thinks you're going there, you're good. But you just don't want to be facing him head on. That's kind of it, right? In my view.
For me, it's also interesting, and I don't know if I'm wrong or if it's just in my teams or previous teams that I've played with, but I think, let's say you have Inferno, I think like CT Arch is for the terrorists like still only at like 60% like how this explode. Everything else is like 100% already, but Arch, bro,
people don't use it well.
It's the key. It's actually the key of the map for the terrorists. It's either the position where you have like nobody from the enemies, and you can like take a lot of space and fuck complete rotations off. Like once you have Arch and you know the one guy is in CT, congratulations, but you will not be with three people on A, and you can just keep them locked out. And he has two small gaps where he can cross and get to bomb site. So I think. I don't know if I'm wrong, but I still think that Arch is like still like 70% explode.
This is something from
and everything is like 120%.
SKLG days. Our slow style approach, where we're like, people are more favorable to make mistakes at the 25 seconds mark and lower time, right? The closer you get to the clock reaching 0, people will over rotate. They'll bite on those fakes. So if we throw like, be exact, at 25 seconds, you can 90% of the time get that Arch player rotating out of position. And if you're contacting Arch, either you're going to get one guy to a really good flank if you're actually execing B, or you just fake them out with two people execing B, and now you killed the Arch rotator, and we have something where we just say, I'm cutting rotates. You guys deal with the problem that's site now. You go find that pit player, that whoever it is. They are not getting more members here to help them and things like that. So I agree with you in the Arch sense. If you know how to utilize it well, be it with time or be it with smokes or something like that, you have a pretty good key to the seaside map there if you're smart about it.
Since earlier LEGIJA referenced Breezy playing apartments, big pit, etc., that's another area where I can always tell the teams where it's like I can just look and be like, this team's never going to be a great Inferno team. Think of all the teams that Zeus had that was amazing on Inferno, right? Here are the big pit players: Breezy, coldzera, Twists. Like, notice these are all like multi-fraggers. They're all players with insane spray. Like, if you play, especially if you play the classic behind that box in the big pit, like, I don't ever want to see you put your worst player there or a guy with bad mechanics and he gets one kill and sometimes doesn't even get a kill when they burst out of the fucking halls. Like, that guy there needs to be like minimum 1-for-1 trade. And if it's some of these players, Breezy, calls it, like, they're getting 2 kills, 3 kills. Like, they're destroying you when you come out of that smoke. So, like, if you don't have that, you don't have the A site. Like, you can't give that up. Like, the whole site's fucked once that's gone.
In all honesty, 1-for-1 trade is sometimes not even enough. You have to imagine sometimes you will play with 3 guys B, you will not be with both people on A side. One guy, your op is maybe holding still CT Arch or whatever, like long. Once they get you and you don't trade like 2 people for 1, then it's gonna be hard. Round is lost, basically.
What kills me in watching pit players like is when I see players that throw their life away. To me, it's not even about the kill. Just knowing the guy is alive is 90% of the time. Like, if you're trying to come up lane and you know that guy is either smoked bike or like he's in that little off angle, you're fucked. But the second the guy kills one and I'm going for that little extra one, dude, your life is so much more valuable if you get 0 kills but you're simply alive than if you get 2 here. But now they don't know pit. Now they actually just trade here. And guess what? It's a 2v3 for them. We have 3 retaking, but now to me it's an even fight, that 2v3. If they have the headshot angle on site and one guy pit as a T, it's even. So that guy needs to survive and maintain that area of control, in my opinion, always.
Very good. Very good.
Yes, yeah, that's a great point. Basically, you don't want a player there who's just looking to peek the angle all the time, who thinks he's just going to headshot them. Like, sometimes literally just hiding is the right move. Literally, just delay them. Make that, like, everyone, think about it. This is this is actually, I'll have a quick tangent, but obviously we're going to end the episode soon. Right, a quick tangent, right, that even pros can fall into this mistake is, imagine right now, everyone's played CS, everyone's played T-side Inferno. Imagine you're coming up the lane, you come up the right side from mid, going towards that pit. Like LEGIJA says, especially if you haven't spotted him yet, if he never peeks you, like Magus from Astralis, there's another example of a brilliant
really
player.
Great one.
Right?
Really
if he never peeks me ever, right, first of all, I have to use some sort of utility. It has to be a Molotov, a flash, I have to smoke him off. And I tell you what, I'm scared to even throw it because I know the fucking second I throw it, what if he peeks out right that second? Like, now I've got, everyone knows that the worst feeling ever is dying with a grenade in your hand. So, like, just the pressure mentally that guy can put on the other team without even shooting a bullet is crazy. So that's why if you get a player where there might even be a skilled player who plays that, but he thinks he's playing it like, a jiggle peek angle 24/7, you're just going to give the site up for free when you get headshot that one time coming around the corner, mate.
Yeah, that's perfect. That guy surviving there is so important. It's insane.
It's in general, he's also it's like people like still talk, and it's a very, very obvious thing. Like, you're the pit player, you're the last guy rotating. But man, I see the differences between like Magisk and other pit players. They have I feel like they have a different sense. Like, they know when they can rotate and they cannot. And sometimes, like, for me, it's crazy sometimes what reads this Magisk guy has in pit and how many multi-frags he makes. Sometimes he just rotates and there's nobody on A. There's actually no lurk, and sometimes he just stays, and it's like 15 seconds, and he still stays there, even though the bomb was shown like 5 seconds ago on the map. Like, I think like you have to be also very, 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 very aware and experienced in that position.
You do. I see so many players that goes for pit, but it goes for so many. If you're the anchor, or like what I call anchor positions, is you're like the last guy to rotate. Just put it in your mind that you're if they're execing B, you're not going to make a difference in B, buddy. They're already brute forcing. They're doing that shit. Whatever you think you're going to do in B, you're going to be able to do after the retake, after that's going on. Of course, there are rare exceptions, but your job is literally, you're the anchor. You're the last person to go out. You need to make sure that area is clear. So if you want to walk clear, and like even after they planted the bomb, if you think there's a chance there's a flanker, if you want to walk, leave that and clear that flanker, that's you doing your job and your role. Your job is not to hold B for us. Your job is to guarantee that we're not getting flanked and kill that guy. So if you just know what you're supposed to be doing, that helps so much of just taking the pressure of that. Because I see that in players like, oh, but B's going in. What if I can get there and spam a guy through a smoke? What if you rotated too early and now they're coming here? Or what if you get caught off by the flanker and now we're getting sandwiched, things like that? That's a lot worse of a task in front of us. So knowing the job is half the battle, knowing what work we're expecting of you. So when you say a guy like Magix rotates out, I think he's saying, okay, I'm the anchor, but I'm not going to hold this site by myself against 3 guys. Well, let's just gamble all of us together. I don't care if they're here. If they're here, then best of luck to them. They take the site. We save some guns. If not, I've made my choice to go here, and now I can make a difference in this round.
Yes.
I'll even give you a quick example, just to wrap it up, actually, of this in play right now with the team, so that fans, next time you watch the player, keep this in mind, this discussion we had about how the big pit player plays and what he has to do and his responsibilities. Because the team, in my opinion, who doesn't, they don't agree with us, put it that way, or they have a problem behind the scenes and they just can't fix it and they've just had to put players where they can, which sometimes happens as well. It's not that every IGL's an idiot. Sometimes you only have so many tools and you don't have 3 hammers to fix a certain problem. You have to just milk what you got. So I'll give you an example of a team. When OG got really good last year, you were at Flashpoint at LEGIJA, one of their best maps, everyone said, oh, it's Inferno. Right, I'll tell you right now, they were mad overrated on that map, and here's why. They won all their rounds on the T side. They won in it all off like mid-round calls by Alexi B. On the CT side of that map, the player they have in Big Pit is Issa. Now, the reason why that's insane to me, I won't even say anything about Issa, right? I just don't think he's appropriate for that position. Dude, if I have Valde on my team, you're the big pit player, mate. You are perfect. You are the fucking Magisk of my team. Like, if you're not there, either you don't envision Pit the same way as I do, or he's plugging a hole somewhere else, and you just can't bring him over because then maybe, I don't know, maybe the whole map collapses. Who knows? It happened, right? I mean, I remember even when, in my opinion, back in the day, coldzera was the best big pit player. I remember there was a brief time where they were trying to move him to the fucking B site. So it's like sometimes you are plugging holes.
But memory feels because Taco and Cold were really good partners, but Cold actually preferred, he played a lot of double pit with Taco, but Taco, at least for my time there, he was our big pit player during my time. And Coldzera was upping lane. He was upping lane like that side angle, things like that. So they had some cool setups and crossfires, but that's when kind of I don't know if the meta was a little bit different there, but it's not like, oh, I'm the pit player and you're the lane player. It's kind of, okay, this time I'm from pit looking at lane and you're from side looking at hall.
Different
like
setups.
it was always a setup. This time we're gonna both play towards side. We're both towards pit. Like, so that's why maybe you remember like that, because they were always very mobile. Like, their idea was don't let the guy know what's hitting them, right? Because after I think that one way in pit where everyone uses it now, that kind of changed that meta. That was way before that meta where it was just mostly crossfires and things like that.
Actually, to be fair, maybe I'm thinking of the team after you when they first became MIBR. I know he definitely played Big Pit then. Anyway, I think we'll just wrap it there. We'll just cut it there. It was a pretty long one, but we got through everything, boys. This video was kindly supported by Bobby, Lager15, Pronogo, Zachary Carter, Andrew, Alexander Rao, Andreas Kroknes, Animosity, Dean Tanglis, ErikHillestad, Hades, Jdubs, Jensen Goh, Tobias Bernasconi, Zyrathenia, Zoomba, and as always, a special thanks goes out to Jerky's Minion. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my shows? Do you want to ask a question for my monthly video AMA? Want teasers for who's coming up on my content? Or do you even want to take part in one of those exclusive discussions with me about esports? If so, put your money where your mouth is and join the Illuminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.